I'm Haley Ostrom. I just won the first ever TiVo Classic Golf Tournament. Right now, I'm at the DTS Sound Space in LA. My friends at TiVo invited me to chat with them about video trends, probably because I have a lot to say when it comes to watching live sports. And I invite you to join us.
Hi there. My name is Fariba Zamaniyan, and I'm Vice President of Data and Monetization Sales at TiVo, providing viewership behavior data into the marketplace for the optimization of planning and transactions of advertising. I'm joined here today with my colleague from TiVo, Scott Maddux, and we're going to talk to you about our latest video trends report, highlighting the key trends that have come out from the latest release. So we are now taking it to the next level. We've got some new products that Scott is going to give us a preview about, the TiVo Plus and Stream 4K. But before we get there, Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, first, Fariba, it's great to be here live and in person, right? Here we are from Los Angeles. The other thing I really love about the conversation we're setting up here is that we're going to talk about two sides of the same coin. So my role is leading content strategy and business development. And my focus is TiVo Plus, which is a content network, 166 channels of fantastic VOD catalog, 100,000 assets, all free and advertising supported. What I look after on the content side is directly linked to what you look after on the advertising and monetization side. You know, you mentioned the video trends report is something that we've just published, and a lot of this data is supported there, so you can go deep on that. But the macro trends are really interesting. So for the consumer, SVOD has been sort of the story of the past, 5 to 10 years, right? Those big services like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. But AVOD, the ad-supported side of the space or the ecosystem, is coming on strong. And one of our partners is Pluto, that's owned by CBS and Viacom. So this is where our worlds are colliding in a really exciting way. It's traditional linear television meeting OTT and streaming television. It's subscription services, those SVOD players meeting the AVOD side of the world. So I think that puts us in in sort of a sweet spot in the industry, and our business bridges both those gaps.
I found it interesting in the latest report that there's an increase in the number of streaming services, that it's up almost 30%, where the average is about 9, apps per individual. I know myself, I have 10, I counted when I saw the results, and the younger audiences are at 11. And those who are continuing to get their content via traditional pay TV are still consuming nearly 4 hours per day, which is phenomenal. And so now with all of this convergence of AVOD, SVOD, and traditional linear, there's a tremendous amount of content for consumers and advertisers in terms of an opportunity to reach those very specific audiences.
Yeah, so this is definitely one of the headlines in our sort of part of the world. It's that SVOD services have exploded over the past couple of years, in addition to, and these are all partners of ours, Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, but now we also have Disney Plus and Paramount and Peacock, great subscription services. But I think the explosion of SVOD services has also led to opportunities for the AVOD partners. So we're partnered with IMDb TV, also from Amazon, with Pluto, which is part of Viacom, CBS, with Tubi, which is part of Fox, with Xumo, which is part of Comcast, NBCU. So you can start to see some trends here, which are really interesting. The consumer is going to win with choice, and they can choose to watch free with ads or sort of bump up to subscription services. But from our perspective in the business, those tier one media companies, those are our customers, whether it's AVOD or SVOD, it's the same customer. So we're selling and working with Viacom, CBS/Paramount/Pluto. We're working with Comcast, NBCU/Xumo. And I think from a consumer perspective, it's kind of a great opportunity. And we're definitely seeing tailwinds for those AVOD services. Bob Bakish was quoted just a couple of weeks ago saying Pluto is on track to do $1 billion in revenue next year. That's a phenomenal number.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Nobody expected that to happen that fast.
Yeah.
I think they expected it long term, but that it's been pulled into 2022 is amazing. And that's great for us. We're a distribution platform. We help those partners monetize, and we monetize on that business as well. And from a consumer perspective, we're bringing tremendous choice and opportunities to the TiVo products and services. So that's from a content perspective. But of course, that drives the advertising business.
Yeah, I have to bring the flip side of the coin in that the advertiser has really been challenged through all this change. And really the reason for that is this acceleration in terms of the digital acquisition by consumers of being able to access content anywhere through a variety of devices. And that fragmentation has driven a real wedge into the traditional media planning process that now with this acquisition that's taking place, such as Paramount, the Paramount Plus example you gave, the advertiser is actually being enabled within the linear, trusted and true franchise, knowing that they can get their impressions delivered through their broadcast programming, but now have the ability to work with that same entertainment provider to provide the incrementality in reach that they're seeking, meaning more and different eyeballs to get their brand message out. And the AVOD services being within franchise and having the data to measure, which they was not enabled previously, has actually now kind of brought back that traditional linear model back into place, where you can plan and measure and guarantee those deliveries, which is supporting the Pluto example in terms of it being able to reach that level of sales, because the advertisers are now being able to do more with the fragmentation than they could ever do before.
I think we're also seeing and realizing the synergies within those services. So if we look at the Pluto example, there's Pluto as a free service, but it's part of a broader portfolio for Viacom and CBS. But Pluto can serve as the top of the funnel to win consumers over and then upsell to SVOD services. The flip side of that is that the free services can catch subscribers that maybe want to downgrade. I think consumers, and this shows up in the video trends report as well, they're pretty fickle. The consumer will turn services on and off at will.
In fact, it was price that's that we found was one of their biggest concerns why they're making the changes that they do as often as they do.
Yeah, we've moved from cable, but we're still paying the same amount in our monthly entertainment spend, only now it's fragmented across multiple services. So what are consumers doing? They're juggling and they're managing those packages much more frequently. But that means they're also fickle. They're going to move on, right? If you don't have a great solution, the consumer will win and the consumer will move on. But these tier one media companies now with freemium portfolios, premium SVODs on one end of the spectrum and free services on the other, are now monetizing at both the subscription tier and the advertising supported tier. So that's a smart move for the industry. And I think that's great for our business. On the ad supported side, the other thing that I've seen over the past really 12 months is just an incredible influx in quality and really tier one entertainment brands coming into the AVOD space. When we launched TiVo Plus almost 2 years ago, we launched with digital brands, and they're great partners, and they continue to deliver great viewership numbers for us. So brands like Cheddar, Fail Army, Tastemade, those were the emerging brands in the entertainment space. And I feel like that's in a jungle. These are the little sprouts that come up through the jungle floor. But now guess what? The big cats are dropping out of the canopy, and that is the studios, the broadcasters, the traditional cable networks. So we just launched 44 channels added to TiVo Plus, and they include AMC, they include QVC, the Hallmark Movie Channel. You start to get the theme here. We're seeing traditional cable brands coming into the AVOD space, traditional broadcasters coming in, and tier one studios, the Paramount Movie Channel. And the content is better than ever, which is essential because it's the quality that will drive viewership. At the end of the day, it's not about how many channels or how many VOD assets you have. It's about what are those titles, what are those brands. So that's an exciting part of the advertising side of our business. It's just getting better and better from a content perspective.
And I think you would agree. What has really joined both sides, or both sides of this coin, is the fundamental change that's happened in the ecosystem, which is the availability of data, which comes from that digitization that's occurred over the last 10 years. And I think it's very fair to say that data is like water. It's an essential ingredient for survival. And everything you just mentioned in what we've seen in the trends that are coming out of our latest report is the data is actually being leveraged to bring content to market that consumers want to watch. All these channels that we're launching, data-driven, initiatives. They're not just, pulling an idea out of the air. And on the advertiser side, the data is being more accessible to them. That is providing intelligence into the planning process so that they can allocate accordingly. And on the provider side, in terms of content, they're using the data similar to TiVo to provide the content that consumers want to watch. So it really all kind of comes together, and it's been validated with what we've seen in the latest trends report, that we're not going backwards in terms of cutting back on our viewership. Because I do remember 10 years ago, maybe more than that, I'm not going to tell you how much, the catchphrase was TV is dead. Huh. And it's more alive than ever. And the latest report confirms that. We are not slowing down in terms of how much content and the availability of channels, the fragmentation, the niche programming that TiVo Plus is providing to the consumer is a testament to that response. And the data is the glue, the water that is bringing it all together. And at TiVo, we're a part of that process too, because we're enabling the ecosystem to leverage the data that we provide in terms of viewership, behavioral changes, what's happening in terms of different types of genre content, and then the activation of advertising to enable that change to take place.
Yeah, that data is essential to the advertising side of the business. And we also use that very heavily in terms of how we curate and sort of build out the TiVo Plus network. So we recognized that we saw viewership around some of our motorsports channels, but it was underserved. I only had, I think, 2 channels. So I just expanded with Motor Vision and Power Nation. So those are added because we saw it in the viewership data. That was able to inform our decisioning about how to really optimize the TiVo Plus content network to give consumers what they need and want and connect them with their shows and drive viewership and advertising.
And we at TiVo have actually taken advantage of data-driven executions as well. As mentioned, the Stream 4K launched, and we ran a 30-second spot called the Caddy ad. We ran it on our connected TV for a very targeted audience of live TV viewers. So we wanted to be able to reach incrementally a very targeted audience. And we leveraged data to not only identify where to place the spots, but also measure the response to the exposure to the ad. And we confirmed, as we know other advertisers are doing, that it helped drive a 25% impact on sales with exposure to the spot. So we know it works, not just by what our advertisers are telling us that we work with and support, but also within our own franchise. So it's really exciting to see it continue to accelerate.
Yeah. Well, Fariba, this has been a great conversation. And I love the fact that we're able to talk about 2 sides to the same coin. There's the content side of our business and TiVo Plus, and then there's the advertising and monetization side of that business. And a lot of the data and data points that we've touched on are available in that video trends report that we mentioned. Lastly, it's just been an amazing experience. Over the past few years, we've seen our industry evolve tremendously, and TiVo is in the middle of all of that.
Just like data has been in the center and an accelerant to change, it's super exciting to have TiVo in the center of that as well. And I can't wait to do this again. And it's going to be exciting to see what's next. Thanks, Scott.
Watch this. Out of the office trap.
To learn more about TiVo's Video Trends Report, download us at
And that's par.
I'm sure we're all very excited that sports, especially live sports, are back. And to take advantage of that, TiVo recently hosted the very first TiVo Golf Classic, which took place at Edgewood in South Lake Tahoe. And I'm very excited to have a special guest with us, Haley Ostrom, who not only participated, but won the tournament. Hi, Haley. It's so great to meet you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's nice meeting you too.
It's exciting because TiVo held our first golf classic, which we were super excited to put together and have you a part of. Most folks haven't heard of the classic and thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of warm things up by having you tell us about the experience and what it was like. And congratulations for your win.
Thank you so much. The TiVo Classic was so much fun. Unlike normal golf tournaments, we had a different format. So we had partners playing stroke play, 6 holes of alternate shot, 6 holes of scramble, and 6 holes of best ball. So it was honestly one of the most fun tournaments I've ever been a part of. And myself and my partner did win the TiVo Classic. So very proud of that.
Yeah, girl power too. I think that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank
and it
you
was
so
a
much.
beautiful location, Edgewood.
Oh, Edgewood has now become my most favorite golf course I think I've ever played. Such a beautiful location. I had never been to Lake Tahoe, believe it or not.
Oh,
so
wow.
yes, I need to go back. So thank you, TiVo, for having me out there.
So you coming out of this last year, and as I mentioned, with live sports kind of taking its hiatus, and now things are back. How has it been being on the course with crowds or audiences and seeing the cameras again?
Yeah, it's great having live sports back and being able to have crowds again at tournaments. Even just living in Scottsdale now and the Phoenix Open, being able to just attend it again is great. But it was unfortunate that we had to shut down for so long, and it did take a toll on our sport. But luckily for me, I kind of transitioned everything into the social media side of things and got sponsorships that way and kept things going so that now all of these sponsors are great for TV too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this change is really driven, it's really changed the game when it comes to professional sports, and golf is no exception to that. Yourself being part of this next generation of golf, we like to think of TiVo as, reinventing television, and having this alignment between us with the TiVo Golf Classic, I think was a great way for us to come out of this past year, and just look forward. And it also makes us wonder about the way that professional athletes are now being challenged when it comes to the sponsorships and the brands that they support. What kinds of changes are you seeing in terms of how you can connect with your fans and your audience for the brands that you're sponsoring? Has anything changed?
Yeah, I would say that everything has transitioned a little bit with social media being so strong nowadays that you have to be able to do both. But the great thing with that is you can do YouTube, which is a whole other form of television nowadays. People having, their subscriptions there. So I would just say that you just have to be able to kind of adapt and, put on different hats for each role that you need to play.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of television and sponsorships and just in general, the promotion for the brands you support, we have to talk a little bit about your favorite shows, because It's kind of hard not to get in a conversation with friends and family and ask, hey, what are you watching right now? So I have to ask you, what are you watching right now? And what's your favorite?
Well, my all-time favorite show is The Office. Anyone who knows me knows I love The Office. I geek out about it, but I would say currently I love Yellowstone is my all-time favorite.
Such a great show.
Yeah,
I love it.
One of the best, I think.
Well, it's Montana. So, it gets you that, new Western feel, I guess.
I'm ready to move. I think I want to go live in Montana.
I'm right with you on that one. So I have to ask then, how did you watch Yellowstone? Were you watching it on your smartphone, traditional TV, a little bit of both?
I always watch on my laptop, but now I do have a TiVo, and so I do watch on TiVo. That is the honest truth. So now I'm all about my TiVo, and I can watch on my TV in my living room instead of on my little laptop.
That's good to hear because it is a different experience, especially with Yellowstone on a big screen, for sure. With those shots, it's epic. You mentioned social media, and this is really now how you're connecting with your fans, driving awareness for the sponsorships that you're engaged with. We just talked about it previously with my colleague Scott about the amount of time people are spending on their devices and consuming content. I shared that I subscribe to, at least that I can remember, 10 different streaming apps right now. And I'm sure it's more and I'm forgetting something. And the average person is generally spending almost 4 hours, if not more, on content. And it skews a little bit higher with the younger demographic. How much time would you say that you're spending? And it can be an average, a ballpark, doesn't have to be yesterday.
Yeah, I do spend a lot of time on my phone. Of course, that's a lot of my career is on my phone. So I am always watching my weekly, you get the usage alert. And I always try to beat my boyfriend to see who has the less time. But I would say on average, my daily time is like 5 to 6 hours, which is embarrassing.
No, I'm going to make you feel better because what we found is actually that the average was around 4, but as it gets younger, it gets up there. It might even be higher than your average. So you're okay right now.
Okay. Well, you just sit there and scroll through TikTok or, watch your YouTube videos that are an hour long and it just adds up.
Your sport, and you're an example of this, is similar to how we a lot think of ourselves as TiVo as having reinvented how content is being delivered and consumed. And with some of our advancements, we're able to measure how that's being done. You're the next generation of golfers. And it's exciting to see that the sport is changing. And do you see that from your perspective, the lens that you're sitting in, or is it just us from the outside kind of looking in at you?
I absolutely see the way that the sport has changed, just even by the outfits. Growing up, I didn't have even golf clothes to wear and I wore boys' clothes. So it is nice that we have more options available to us now. And it's so great that now I can go to the driving range and I see other women there. Growing up, usually I was the only female on the driving range, and it's becoming a more inclusive sport. And I think the changes are necessary, and I think that they've all been for good. As far as, sponsorships and TV versus social media, I think that's all great because it's giving the audience and the fans more to watch. So for me, I'm huge on my social media. I'm always posting, I'm always doing stuff. And I think that's really great for everybody because then all of the fans can go on and see exactly what I'm doing. They know what I'm doing today. They can see it and then they can catch up with it on TV later and see the final result.
So does that have an impact then on the way you consider or evaluate the types of sponsorships that you may consider as you look forward in your career, given the different types of media habits and trends? Obviously, you learn a lot from your fans, the feedback they give to you.
Yeah.
What role does that play in evaluating who you want to work with?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that it holds more value now that you can do more things. You can show off on TV your sponsors, you can show off on social media your sponsors. They can see you all the time. I would say with my sponsors that I choose, I always, first and foremost, make sure it's somebody I want to work with, a product I like. If it's not something I would use myself, I will never promote it because I want to keep myself authentic to me and my brand. And then I like brands that believe in me as much as I'm going to believe in them. And it's about a partnership. It's not a sponsorship. So I actually refer to all of my sponsors as partners because that's what it is for us.
And I think it's interesting because the traditional sponsorship model has really been about impression delivery. So in the ad world, advertising impressions. So whether it's the logo that you are wearing, a brand mention, a tie-in of the athlete with the live event, sponsors or brands are trying to value them. They're putting more and more pressures on the let's say the PGA, for example, to demonstrate delivery. Has that gotten to you at this point where you're actually starting to receive some type of request for, how well is your presence delivering?
Definitely. Yeah. So I think it used to be definitely more of just the sponsorship, and you would see it on TV and you knew that they are just getting paid to do that sponsorship, where now it really does need to be more authentic. I don't want to be promoting anything that I don't like. It's not real. It's fake, so all of my partners, I'm making sure that this is something I'm using in my daily life, or at least in my weekly life.
It's endemic to you.
Definitely. So that it is organic. And I think most companies want the organic. They want it to be authentic. They don't want to partner with somebody who doesn't use their product as much as that person probably doesn't want to partner with them. It's not just about the paycheck anymore. It's really, truly about partnering with brands that you enjoy.
That's great to hear. And it's exciting to see how it's evolving, especially with the next generation of professional athletes, changing up the model. And as we're seeing the way that the media landscape is changing as well, they have to change too. So to wrap up, is there anything that you want to leave us with? Any advice for up and comers like yourself and the hopes that they have for the future of your sport in golf?
Yeah, I would just say that the same thing that I tell all of my younger followers who reach out, that you can manifest your own destiny. So go out there and believe in yourself and believe in what you want and speak it into existence.
Well, thank you so much, Haley. This was great. So much fun. And we are so looking forward to having you come back and defend your title at the next TiVo Golf Classic. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
What a great discussion. We have Scott, Fariba, and Case with us now to get things started. They'll be joining us momentarily. Let me make sure that they pop up on the screen for everyone. They're here with us live today to answer questions and kind of kick off a discussion around the video trends report. Hey, Fariba. Hey, Case. Hey, Scott. So Scott, Fariba, and Case, what do you think is the overall takeaway from the latest update of the video trends report among consumers?
Well, I think
go ahead. Sorry,
we're going to fight over it, right? So, no. Maybe I could just kick it off and just kind of give an overarching theme. I know we kind of hit on it a few times during the discussion, but just to recap and kind of summarize it. It really isn't, and we look back over time, this is an industry that's gone through change over the many decades since, television and video content became available. Most recent changes that I can recall where there was so much disruption because of the looming fragmentation is if you think about when cable network television became available and just the start of that incredible fragmentation that started to happen with audiences. And really sort of from both sides of the coin, this disruption forces kind of an introspective of how are we going to stay on top of and adapt to that change. And in the most recent years, and what we've found coming out of the Video Trends Report is, you mentioned earlier, Molly, we've been doing this at TiVo for many years. And in looking at the trends, the theme continues, even from in the past, is there's a tremendous amount of fragmentation that continues to occur in terms of the availability of the different types of content, linear, SVOD, AVOD, everything in between. And what we're seeing is this fragmentation and all these different options. Now, after a few years, and especially coming out of the past 2 years that we've had, consumers have been overloaded, and it's become so fragmented that it's difficult to manage. And this is entertainment. We need it as part of our daily lives. We want to consume it and want to get as much of it as we possibly can. And we've done so with 30% increase in terms of the service options that we just subscribe to an average of just under 9 so far this year. But what's come out of the report when you put it all together is that it's not so much that there isn't content and a good quality of content. It's that because it's so fragmented, it's become difficult and frustrating to discover it, to find it when we want to find it, and to do so at a price or a cost that is affordable. So it's a matter of the combination of search, viewability, and cost that is now at the inflection point that we're at, with all of this tremendous technological advances that have given us the ability to access so much great content. So the theme that we've seen as a takeaway in analyzing not just this report outcome, but also over the years, and even prior to the report and looking at the decades past, is that a rebundling is imminent. That there is this imminent need by consumers. They're telling us this, and the trends out of the report are saying that they're looking for a better way to manage that content and have it accessible at the right cost through a single platform or resource. So why don't we show you some numbers? I'm going to turn it over to Scott, who's going to take you through some of the specifics, as well as Case, that are coming out of the report that support this conclusion.
Great, thanks Fariba. Yeah, we'll jump to a couple of slides now, just 4 or 5 slides to present a couple of highlights from the VTR report that we've been talking about. I think this one really sets the stage, and these are the numbers that we've touched on in the previous conversations, right? The fact is that the consumers wanted choice, and now we have it, right? The increase in the number of services, subscription, AVOD, free, pay TV has really exploded. So the consumers now on average are reporting 8.8 services or sources for video. That's across the entire sample, which is about 4,500 participants in the survey. So it's a very large sample. I think it's interesting to look at the age slice, the 18 to 30, it's even higher, 11.3 video services. So yes, we have choice, but that comes at a cost, and it's a paradox of choice, obviously. And so I think what you'll see in some of the slides to follow is the reaction to that, and people are struggling to figure out how to manage that. Sorry, to go back to previous slide, sorry. Case, I know you put a lot into this report. What's your takeaway around some of these high-level numbers?
Yeah, no, I don't think that it's overly surprising. I think it speaks really well to the fragmentation that you and Fariba have been speaking about. And I think moving forward, we can expect, as more services, find their way onto the market, as services experiment with different distribution business models, I think we can expect this number to grow and that fragmentation to continue.
All right, let's jump to the next one. So this is really a deeper look at that same trend. And what you see as a result here, the consumer is also saying 88% of respondents of the survey are looking for the ability to view, browse, and search all of their content in a single guide or menu or single source. And and you see on the lower left the sort of the pink highlights here. They're struggling with that, right? They're wrestling with how to search, discover, and consume, because they're navigating all these services. We used to call it the Friday night problem. You sit down with loved one on the sofa, you go down the Netflix rabbit hole, you come back up. You go down the Hulu rabbit hole, you come back up. Now we're starting to see services that cut across that. I think we need more of that. I actually think that with the explosion of choices now, it actually gives the pay TV operators an opportunity to come back in. So we'll touch on that a little bit further.
Yeah.
What are some of the other highlights you see here?
Definitely. No, I thought it was very, very interesting that the top consumer pain points really aligned very well to that fragmentation problem. You hear so much about cost in reports and the news being the #1 pain point for consumers, but it's really that fragmentation problem as a top consumer pain point. Also, I agree with you. I think pay TV services and other services that are kind of bridging the gap between pay TV and over the top, right, have a major opportunity here to use innovation to give consumers what they want. And they definitely seem to want not only an interface where they can find all of their content, but also an interface where they can pay for all of their content.
Great. Let's jump to the next one. We'll keep things moving. In case this one's all yours.
Yeah, definitely. So again, very fascinating stuff. I think the average $142 a month on internet video speaks really well to the notion that despite the constant and fundamental change that we're seeing in the industry across all the different services, across all the different types, $142 is still a lot of money to be spending. So there's definitely an ongoing demand for video. People are I hate to say never going to give up their video, but entertainment is a must-have for people. And I thought it was very, very interesting to see the trend occurring right now in the TVOD space. So we've all been watching the news and reading the news about content windowing and how we're seeing content owners and services distribute content that's still in the movies through their direct-to-consumer channels. And really, right, what we're seeing here is the impact of that. $11 to $26 a month on TVOD is a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And when you take a step back from that, however, when you look at what's happening in the industry right now, if you're paying for PVOD, is what we call it, premium VOD. So that's a piece of content that's released direct to consumer at the same time that it's in the movie theater. If you buy 3 or 4 of those movies per year, that's $10 a month right there. So this is going to be a very interesting stat for us to track moving forward. And again, I think given what's happening in the world right now, we can expect this number to stay elevated.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Some of the same pain points that we've heard for years and complaints about, everybody's cable bill now applies to the combined set of SVOD services. Let's jump to the next slide, because I think that's also echoed here in another key point, sort of a pain point, which is churn. From the provider's perspective, churn is always a real challenge. What it means from the consumer perspective is, with more choice, they're more fickle than ever, right? And they'll jump from service to service, just the way we used to turn on a premium service like HBO to watch The Sopranos and then turn it off. That's happening now with the SVOD services. Case, you had a couple of call outs here as well.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was just important to note that 3 of the 4 top reasons for people canceling SVOD was for cost. I think it's really fascinating to evaluate how consumers are evaluating their entertainment spending. I think it is important on multiple fronts. I think from a content service perspective, really understanding at a much more even granular level than what we have presented here represents a major opportunity to tailor kind of an outreach to consumers to ultimately, more effectively communicate the value of their services. And I think this represents an opportunity from a technology standpoint as well, to be able to capture that data and present it to customers in an actionable way is really just, again, a major opportunity to for technology players in the space and to use innovation as well.
Agreed. Let's jump to the next and last slide. Another excerpt from the VTR report, the Video Trends report. So here, this is echoing a theme that we touched on in the previous conversation in the video segment. And we really see a balance now taking shape when the tier one media companies, Comcast, NBCU, Amazon, now we count in that category, Viacom, CBS, are bringing combined SVOD and AVOD solutions to the table. That's a freemium portfolio. And for our customers, the media players in this space, they're monetizing across the spectrum from free AVOD services to higher end SVOD services. And consumers are reacting, and you see that in the numbers here, right? 81% said they would rather use a free ad-supported service than subscribe to another paid service. I think that's also a clear indication that where consumers are topping out, right? That 8.8 number or 11.3 services as reported in the 18 to 30 age group. I think we're hitting it may continue to expand a little bit, but we got to be topping out at some point because they're not going to be willing to pay for more and more services. AVOD kind of comes in. And then it's really interesting to see 83% said they wish premium only or SVOD only services like Netflix or Prime would offer free options or ad supported options. So we'll see what how that plays out across the industry. So I also think that just coming back, for the operators in the space, they have the legacy video business, which has been under pressure, but they're also broadband providers. So there's a new equation maybe taking shape for operators. And if they can tailor a solution for the consumer that is looking to manage all these services, I think that's a nice opportunity for some of our customers. I think that's a wrap on the excerpts and slides that we had. I believe we're going to Q&A now.
Yeah, so we've got a couple questions that have already rolled in. And again, if you guys have any questions, please post them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. There should be a little button at the bottom of your screen that says Q&A. So if you want to type your questions in there, we will get to those now. Let me take a look at the first one. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
I can go ahead and jump in on this because I think this came in through one of the points here. We mentioned that the amount of quality of content will determine who will win over the streaming war. And the question is, are we entering a paradox of choice? Absolutely. Absolutely. The consumer is flooded, right? There's a sea of content out there. And, the entertainment business, whether it's video that we're in, movies, television, but even, games, music, books, it's a hits-driven business. Entertainment is a hits-driven business. So it's really always, quality that drives the sort of the top end of that market, and then a halo effect. And then, yes, you have to appeal to and have a product that is tailored for niche interests, but still, at the end of the day, it's quality over quantity. So I think that it's an absolute truth that we're seeing paradox of choice today. I think that's reflected in the data, the Video Trends report. People are looking for solutions, search solutions, discovery solutions. So yeah, I would answer that unequivocally. Yes, paradox of choice is something that we're wrestling with, or the consumer's wrestling with today.
Great. Let's take a look at some of these. Carmela, where do you see linear content in the next 3 years?
I mean, I can take that one. I think that, linear content has really been what has helped set the baseline for what's evolved outside of linear. So I don't see any slowdown in terms of some of the great programming and legacy programming that's now also available through SVOD and AVOD services. It's a foundational element of what's happening, because we have to level set too, is that still 3/4 of video content is being consumed through linear television. So this is a shiny new object, and seeing all the fragmentation and new terminology of freemium that's evolving. But the mainstay is still that linear captures the majority of eyeballs. And from an advertising transactional business, which really helps support the development of content, that there's no reason to believe that great content is not still going to be introduced, particularly as we're heading into the new fall season, where we've got new shows that are coming that we have to look forward to. And, you know, the majority of Americans, at least in the US, are still accessing that great content through linear forms. It's not to say they don't have access to the additional or the incremental to feed that need or the hunger for additional content to watch it when they want to watch it. I mean, you still have DVRs available. DVRs can still help you schedule that linear content so you can watch it when you want to. So I think there's still a lot of great content to look forward to that's going to be made available, and through partnerships that are in these now conglomerates that have traditional as well as an AVOD component, we're probably going to get to see even more great stuff being launched in both platforms. So a lot for all stakeholders.
I wanted to add on to a great point that Fariba made there about linear, and that's really that linear, which is to say traditional television viewing, drives the majority of viewing, right? So that's one definition of linear. There's also a form of linear in the streaming space, right? So, you know, some of our partners and our services include linear guide-based viewing. So, you know, Pluto and Zumo and others are leaning into that space. We view in the AVOD environment, ad-supported, linear and VOD are really equal citizens in terms of viewership. So that more relaxed use case of sitting down, tuning into a channel, see what's on, and start watching a linear program applies directly in the new streaming world, side by side with VOD, where it's targeted viewing video on demand. So we see both of those use cases as sort of equal citizens in a lot of ways. And our viewership number reflects that. It's a pretty even balance between linear and VOD in that segment.
Great, and we've got a couple more questions coming in. We've got one from Willard Ostrander. Can Pluto and Tubi both survive based on other catalogs they have, or will one win out based on the quality of the catalog?
Yeah, I'll take that. Both partners of ours in terms of TiVo Plus Content Network, both great partners, both bringing very strong catalogs. What you see happening in the AVOD space is what has happened in the past, in the recent past, in the SVOD space. And that is to say that these brands and companies are going after originals, right, to differentiate. They do have to differentiate, and that's happening. So Tubi is owned by Fox, and they're bringing more Fox content to the table. Pluto with Viacom, CBS, you'll see a lot of Viacom, CBS content in those portfolios. So I think what's happening is you know, a year or two ago, there'd be a lot of overlap between those catalogs and services. I think those are going to be distinguished and differentiated more so moving forward.
Okay, we have another one from Michael Heiss. As we see more separate viewers and data users in a home that grows the demand faster broadband service, which costs more. Thus, when over $50 per month is added to SVOD total per home, does the traditional pay bundle become more attractive as it would be closer in true costs?
I can jump into this one initially. Short answer, yes. It really depends on, I guess, how you personally view content and the amount of content that you're viewing. I think we're seeing with some streaming services out there on the market that the costs are actually beginning or have grown to similar levels to a traditional pay TV bundle. So I think, yes, from a cost standpoint, yes. And I also think from a technology standpoint, going back to the question about where we see linear in the next 3 years, I think we see linear platforms also begin to adopt these OTT services in their interface. So I think you're going to benefit from a cost standpoint as well as a technology standpoint.
Great. Okay, we've got another one coming in. Bart Eben. Does TiVo offer their guide schedule record via cloud service as opposed to needing a box at all?
We do have mobile solutions and cloud DVR solutions. So in certain environments and platforms, that is available. That said, we're definitely, the solutions like the TiVo Stream 4K, it's a fantastic device, and with great services wrapped around it. Cloud DVR or cloud recording solutions are integrated across our portfolio.
Thanks. Okay, and Jeffrey Minsky is asking, with the number of services aligning with distributors, do you believe that streaming services are now more of a promo tool for connectivity?
So, I mean, in some cases, yes. I think that, I'll keep this brief because I see AVOD being used to drive viewership and subscription services, so sort of an upsell opportunity there. In that context, yeah, I would say it is driving, these services are being used to drive viewership in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think to some degree, yes, especially as broadband becomes more of a focus of the traditional media companies. So I think we're going to see a lot more promotion in that sense, kind of tied into OTT services being bundled in with broadband.
Okay, thanks. Let's see, we've got a couple more coming in. I know we're drawing close to the bottom of the hour, so we'll try to keep these through. And again, if we do not get to your question, we can answer them offline. We'll keep a tab of all these Q&As and we can respond offline as well. Okay. What do you see happening with cable network channels over the next few years, particularly with the significant quality of content now available from major streaming services?
I could take that one. I think this ties back to my previous response with what we see in terms of linear is still the majority of video consumption, and linear is inclusive of a fragmentation of networks and programming that spans across broadcast and cable. So I think what has been, a monumental point in cable's evolution is the ability to reach niche target audiences. And that's not going away. If anything, that's accelerated, where we've moved away from the traditional model of age and gender defines what you watch and how often you watch it and when you watch it. If anything, we've learned over the most recent years that's been accelerating this fragmentation of available offers of how to access content is because we are not driven by those two one-dimensional characteristics. It's a lot more than that. And that's why audience targeting has gotten so refined and granular in identifying an opportunity to reach someone who has very specific interest levels that may or may not be tied to their demo. And cable has to date and continues to deliver those niche audiences to advertisers, for example. So there's no reason to believe that the cable would see any change different than the overall levels of consumption for linear TV, just because of the fact that they still offer programming that is very specific to a type of viewer. So for example, if you're a home improvement enthusiast or junkie, or you are a chef on the side, accomplished chef on the side, there's programming out there on cable to help you fill that need. So the expectation is that it will continue to remain competitive with the alternative services that continue to be released.
Oops, sorry. Okay, great. I think we have time just for one more question, because then we have our giveaway and we'll do a quick wrap up. So this one coming in from Michael Heiss. For AVOD fast services, do you see any reluctance for some viewers to use grid navigation rather than direct 10-key numeric input? Personally, that is why I still use TiVo Bolts. Imagine my 95-year-old mother navigating an AVOD fast SVOD menu. She does, but much prefers direct access.
Yeah, so I'll take that. Yeah, absolutely. The grid guide is tried and true, and it's a great way to drop in and view programming and from a channel and a provider and a partner and recognize. So we don't see a reluctance to use the grid navigation. On the contrary, we see a very high degree of viewership through the guide still, right? And I think that it's actually something that differentiated the TiVo stream platform early on, is that we really treat that linear guide-based experience sort of on equal footing with VOD, right? And the VOD and OTT experience, which is very carousel-based, VOD is driven by directed search and targeted viewing experiences. And linear is a little more casual. You drop in and watch. Some like old, used to be there was appointment television, but now that experience of simply tuning on, the Hallmark channel to drop in and watch whatever's on, that's a very, very prominent use case that drives a lot of viewership and a lot of advertising for us. So
I also think it depends on demographic as well, right? It depends on what you're used to. I mean, I think younger viewers who are used to that kind of carousel, that VOD platform that they've gotten used to watching Netflix, Amazon, I think they'll probably be a little bit more reluctant, but there's still, like Scott said, a ton of viewing that happens through EPG.
And with that, we are at the bottom of the hour. We do have a couple more questions that were in the queue, but we will get to everybody's answers. We can answer them offline through the email that you submitted for registration. So we really appreciate everyone's participation. Thank you, Scott, Fariba, and Case, for all of your insights today as we look to the future of video and content consumption. And as we start preparing for the Q4 2021 report that will be coming out in January, save the date, or February, we don't have a date quite yet, but before we go on to the giveaway, we did select 3 randomly selected participants that will receive a TiVo Stream 4K. And for any of you that do not know what that is, it's the ultimate streaming device that brings together all of your subscription, live and on-demand entertainment, and also includes access to 166 channels of free programming with TiVo Plus. Drum roll, please. The winners are David Whitman, yay, Amanda Brown, yay, and Erica Massey. So we will be sending you an email. Congratulations. Be sure to check your email and we will follow up with you on how to get those to you. That brings our program to a close. So be sure to download the latest TiVo Trends video report at blog.tivo.com/trends. This webinar will also be posted on our blog as well, in case any of your friends missed this. Thanks again and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.